This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we take for granted, but when you think about it, it's pretty amazing when you look around you and all the splashes of color that present, even just walking outside, just nature's colors and the different shades and the hues and all of that. There's a lot more going on than, no pun intended, but maybe yes, meets the eye. And we're going to talk with somebody who can give us more insight. Well, there's another pun there on all of that. She is a certified registered art therapist. Didn't know that existed until I met Barbara Robertson, our professional of the year, who's back with us. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
You got a lot of color going on with the your top there with it almost looks like a, I want to call it like a peach. It's
Yeah,
not
it's good. It's
orange,
got a
but
lot of orange and yellow, and then there's a little bit of blue in it. So I chose a necklace that might pick up the blue, and they make a strong contrast because blue and orange are actually opposite colors on the color wheel. You know, if you know what I'm referring to when I
I
say color
do
wheel.
know what you're referring to. And I struggle with trying to remember what opposite colors, which are opposite of each other. But why does it work if they're opposite?
I don't honestly know, except that they make each other pop because they're as different as they can get. So
Yeah.
here's the sort of oppositeness of it. And this is different for light than it is for paint. So the colors I'm talking about are pigment. Light colors work in a very different way that is actually a little bit over my head. If you're into film, you probably know a lot more about it than I do. But with pigment, there are three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue.
Hmm.
Okay. You can't make those colors from anything else. That's why they're primary colors. They exist, they're like prime numbers. They're not divisible into anything.
Yep.
Okay. So red and yellow make orange. So since red and yellow are not blue, but they're mixed together, they're opposite to blue because there's a primary color, blue, and then the other two primary colors mixed together are orange. And so that's why we say they're opposite, because they don't have anything of each other in them. There's no blue in red or yellow.
But it's fascinating how they look great together. Like blues and yellows actually look at Blockbuster, not Blockbuster, Best Buy
Right.
has that color in their logo.
Yeah. And IKEA too.
Yeah. And it works, but those are two primary colors, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. But again, they probably work better than blue and red would because yellow is a much lighter color than blue is. And so the contrast is
Yes.
at the peak
Yep.
of what you can achieve. And interestingly, blue and red, when you put those together, they can sometimes convey a lot of tension because they have approximately equal values or strength, but they're very different in nature. Red is very warm and blue is very cool. And so it sets up a juxtaposition that is much more kind of a holding tension in it than blue and yellow, or say red and green, which is, our favorite color scheme for the holidays.
You know what's interesting now that we opened the door here to color, what colors can do? Example, red and yellow. That color is used in certain types of businesses, mm, stores, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, where do you remember those colors from? Think of logos.
Fast food.
Exactly right. Somehow those colors apparently trigger appetite.
Interesting.
Yeah. It
That is interesting. Yeah, that you're right. They're very predominant in almost all the fast food places.
McDonald's has got it. You've got Burger King, which isn't red, but it's orange, which is a form of red.
It's
It's
pretty
in
close
there.
to red. That's right.
And if you look at anything in medical advertising, a lot of times you see blue because it is the number one trust color.
Ah, yeah. True blue.
I
There
mean,
you go. It's even in our idioms.
I didn't even think of that, but there's been studies, research, psychology done on blue. So I have a marketing company. We do websites. A lot of the medical sites have a shade of blue in them because there's an element of trust within that color blue. So there's all these things that we don't even realize that's going on, you know?
That's right. I've seen kind of a lavender, warmish purple showing up in some of them too. There's some I don't even know what the pharmaceutical is, but there's an older gent who's on the golf course and he is all decked out in shades of purple. A
Mm,
little over the top,
but
but
there's probably a reason for it. It's not
I
just
bet
done.
there is.
And imagine this. Let's say a medical practice and they used red.
Yeah. No, yep, let's not go there.
No, it would be alarming, especially in that I mean, it works in food, but it wouldn't work there.
Well, and it works in Red Cross because Red Cross is about saving, it's about rescuing people from, crisis, medical crisis.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought there, and I wonder why they went that way. But it is within a cross, which there's probably some comfort there, and red obviously is going to get your attention. So maybe there's a reason for that. But you
Well,
wouldn't
maybe a little bit of a paradox, but it's about restoring well-being as opposed to maintaining well-being, which is
exactly.
more the idea of general medicine.
I'm intrigued how the colors that you're wearing, the bluish purple and the, call it the peach orangey, very light on the orange. It's not like in your face orange. It works together. Amazing.
It's just one of those things. And this has several different shades of color in it. And I was looking this morning for just a little chemise to wear underneath it, just to also kind of help the colors to pop. And I tried several different colors with it, and the blue was the only one that really spoke to me.
Well, from on screen here, that blue looks like it's also being picked up in the top that you have on.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
much so. It's
yeah.
almost like it was intentional, like you bought them both at the same time.
Nope, it's just happened to have them both completely unrelated times and
Uh,
went rummaging. So, I mean, that's the other kind of thing that is kind of fun to do and ties in with that. What we've been talking about from time to time is that sort of part of us that knows when something is resonating for us, and just looking at several different colors with this peachy orange and the other colors that are in it, it
mhm.
probably looks bluer on the screen than it looks in person because of the other blue that's near it.
Yes. It's the same way as if somebody wears a blue shirt and they have blue eyes and their eyes stand out,
Right,
you know? It's
right.
I don't know how that works, but but apparently it does. When you're Barbara, when you're creating, let's say an abstract, how do you know what colors? I mean, you can pick any colors. How do you know which to pick, or is you're feeling it?
That's a really good question, and I came about that in a sort of almost like a backdoor way. Because when I became an art therapist, I'd already been doing artwork for 20 odd years, and I had middling success, but I wasn't blowing up the art world or anything like that. And the idea of art therapy really intrigued me because I had also, kind of experienced some emotional opening up through creating artwork for myself. And so when I heard about this field, it made sense to me. But getting into it made me kind of drop making my own artwork for quite a while because it was just really sort of demanding all of my creative energy to kind of learn the skills, become a therapist, pay attention to what my clients were doing. And where I found the door opening to creating for myself again was when clients would decide that they wanted to use acrylic paints, which I have good sized tubes because I want to sort of emphasize that there's abundance rather than scarcity. It's so much more encouraging a way to live if you can sort of assume there is enough, there will be enough. So I have large quantities of paint, and often the clients will just kind of uncap and then squeeze the tube, and quite a generous amount of paint comes out onto the palette, which turns out often to be much more than they need to cover a 9 by 12-inch piece of paper, or even a 12 by 18 piece of paper. So there's leftover paint. I don't know if you ever tried to put toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube.
Yeah.
The prospect with paint is
You
approximately.
ever try and do that when you squeeze out too much and then you squeeze the tube
Yes,
and
to
then you
get the
try to get
air out. Yep.
have it go back in again?
Yep. Yep. Well, believe it or not, I've actually tried to put paint back in tubes, and it's just a little too tedious to be worth it. So I decided that I would start using the paint for myself. And one of the things that was inviting about that was that someone else had chosen the color combination. So I didn't have to even make that decision. It was this sort of random selection of colors that suited someone else's inner compass, and I was going to play with it instead of intentionally trying to make capital A art with it. And that turned out to be quite a freeing shift in the way that I thought about what I was doing.
Hmm.
So I started out just playing with color and seeing what I liked. And so I would maybe use a lot of one color and less of another that was left on the palette. Maybe I'd add another one straight from a tube if I felt it would enhance the combination. But I made just lots and lots and lots of pages of color in which I had a wide palette knife, kind of like a spatula. And I was just kind of swiping at the page and sometimes scraping some paint off and painting over it and scraping that off and looking at, oh, there's color underneath that. Oh, how about that? Some of that showed through in its original color. It didn't necessarily mix. And then there were surprises like that that were happening, which was really a blast. And at this point, it's still pretty experimental like that. When I create something for myself, it's
You,
very gut led.
you said that word myself, and I was going to bring it up. So when you create art or had been doing it even in the beginning, did you care that anybody saw it, or you just were doing it truly for yourself?
Until I went to art school, I was just doing it for myself.
Hmm.
Art school proved to be a game changer and not necessarily in a good way. I mean, I did get a lot of good from it. I did develop a level of skill that was much stronger than when I started, um, and I became a pretty decent representational painter. I could do portraits in oils that looked pretty genuine. I sold one painting of a friend of ours at a pool table getting ready to make a shot and sold that because the guy just happened to look like somebody in the purchaser's family. So it was an inadvertent portrait, but it did make me really begin to focus on what will other people think.
Hmm.
will there be a market for it? Will people like it? If they don't like it, what do I do with all these paintings? And I kind of shifted around in the materials that I used. I got tired of painting. I have this sort of ADHD zest for novelty. So I shifted into painting on fabric, decorating neck scarves and neckties and things like that. And then I shifted into um, making wearable jewelry that were like little dancing figures, and then into larger figure sculptures. And now I'm kind of back at the painting and drawing. What happened with my abstracts is I began to see these colorful pages full of all different kinds of strokes and movement as a backdrop for drawing images of people. So I started to draw faces on top of these abstract backgrounds. And I take a lot of liberty in the colors I use in faces too. So I've done a couple of my grandkids in sage green skin, another one in gold and red and purple. Um, and discovering that colors have light and dark value, so you can use them even if they're not natural colors, you can use them to describe form in the same way that you would if you were just doing a black and white light and shade. So that's where I've been having a lot of fun.
It's almost like there's no boundaries.
Exactly. And when you're doing it to play, I mean, we're set with this idea that there's no wrong way to play.
Well, as a kid, yes, but we get out of that mode and then we care what people think as we get older.
Yeah.
And how sad for, little Jimmy, 7 years old, does a painting and the sky's green. He makes the sky green. And then mom or dad says, "Well, Jimmy, you know better than that. It's supposed to be blue. You don't make it blue."
Yeah. Yeah. And the
What's
green
the
guy was phenomenally expressive in that original thing that he chose to do. Yes. Yeah.
And maybe mom or dad are concerned that classmates might make fun of him. I get it, but then I think that's a lesson to teach a child to say, who cares what people think? You're being
Right.
creative. Leave it
Right.
be.
Well, that's kind of where, yeah, I think using leftover paint opened the door for me. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, so I'm not 100% responsible for how this came out because somebody else chose the colors. So it's okay if it doesn't look great. It's not on me. And then I just started really liking what I was doing and discovering that I really love color. I love seeing what color does. And I didn't know that before I hit about 60. And that's a long time to go through life without discovering something that feels now that essential to me.
Well, especially since you were already involved in the art world up until
Right,
that point.
right,
But I
right.
get I get what you're saying because in my field, I wasn't like a big fan of doing presentations. I do some charity presentations or emceeing and things like that, but it was like wasn't even really that fun. Like for me anyway.
Uh,
I
yeah,
happy to help, but it wasn't like I'll be there, I'll love it, I'll be, a
right,
couple of
right.
times back in the day, yeah, I'm sorry, can't make it. Until 3 years ago, I was asked to be the MC for the district attorney in this county's inauguration. I don't do politics. I didn't even know who he was. I
Okay.
I Googled to see if I agree with him,
Hmm.
and that was and this is 3 years ago. That was the door opener for me saying, I finally arrived. Okay, that was flawless, fun, fantastic. Pomp and circumstance, and
It's
even
just hit a chord with you in some way.
it did. It was. I grew up. um, and right down to the because I'm geeky and particular about audio, always have been, that there was some things that were misadjusted in terms of the music that was playing. So when there was a break and I was able to, I walked behind the stage, saw the rack of equipment, made some tweaks, got it just right, came back around again, calm, cool, collected. We're all good to go here. And that was that. Um, but to your point, I mean, it wasn't until that moment where it's like, yeah, Simon, you want me to do something? I'm there for you. I got it. I'll show up. I'll be there early. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's weird how I don't know what clicks. Like what clicked in your head?
I think that it was fun, that it was fun instead of a task that, a performance. It wasn't performing anymore. It was striking a chord with some inner place in me that felt fun and energizing, kind of inspiring and exciting. And it hadn't felt like that for a while.
Would you say that you truly did it for you and not anyone else or others, where it was
Yes.
just, this is my thing, and I don't care
Yeah.
what anybody thinks. I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm at the point now where I would like to kind of pull a presentation together because I've got confidence in the work now. I think because I've had so much fun producing it, that it is sort of inoculated against anyone else's negative response.
Hmm.
It won't matter because I know how much fun I had creating it. And if it's not going to be contagious to everyone, no one thing is going to light everybody's fire.
Sure.
But
But do you care?
exactly, exactly. And at this point, I really don't. I mean, I'd like to find people who like it well enough to give me some space to put it up and show it and share it for a little while. But the point more is sharing it than showing it to perform. It's just like, this is kind of how I've been spending my time. Have a look, see what you think, see what you feel, see what you notice. Enjoy yourself.
Do you think that it's at that point in your life, my life, where it's the blend between I don't care what anybody thinks and I got a certain level of confidence now?
Yes.
Like all of
Yeah,
that coming together.
absolutely. And, as a therapist, one thing that I've noticed is that when I'm working with somebody who's roughly 50 or older, they have a lot more inner resources that they have developed just by living life for that stretch of time.
Hmm.
And they can springboard from those resources into some real significant change. And it's interesting because I really, if somebody comes in and says, did it take me so long to get into therapy? I say, hon, you're right on time.
Yeah.
You've just been gathering what you need for a foundation. Now you got your foundation. Let's build. Let's do this thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's I think also just about out of time, but you know what? You can better express yourself because of you've been around. We've been around.
Yes,
So
exactly. Exactly. And we've seen pictures where the sky is green or the sky is yellow. And we've seen green and yellow skies in the real world. And we realize, wow, there's so much more latitude,
yeah.
so much wider choices than we initially believed.
But even traditional talk therapy, I think at a certain age, you're able to express yourself in a different way where you're comfortable, not only comfortable with doing it, but also comfortable that you conveyed accurately what's within. And,
Yes,
it's almost like I'm nailing it in terms of how I feel. And then the same thing with, painting or whatever it might be. And then all the other stuff too, where I don't care what anybody thinks, no judgment. And then, expressing yourself.
exactly. Exactly. And I think, people also in talk therapy, I've found visual metaphors coming up in conversation. Like someone will say, I have this heavy feeling in my chest. Okay, so what would have to happen in order for that heavy feeling to leave your chest? Well, something would have to lift it out.
Mm,
Well, what sort of thing would be able to lift it? How heavy is it? And
yeah.
In this particular case, there was a family member who was in construction and had some sort of I don't know, a forklift or something. And so she kind of created this whole narrative of this family member kind of coming to her aid and getting this heaviness out of her chest and feeling like that was a better connection than she was used to in that relationship. And it really, because our nervous systems can't tell the difference between imaginal experience and real experience, it reset her nervous system and her expectations in that relationship.
Wow. We're going to leave on that because
Okay,
that is powerful. That we internally can't tell the difference between whether a real crane came in, whether it
exactly,
was imaginary,
exactly.
that feeling, that emotion, that all of it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And, she really remarked about how much more open it felt and how much easier it was to breathe now. And so there is not just an imaginal experience, but the physiological experience of having your nervous system reset to baseline, calm, safe.
That's really cool. That is fantastic. It's almost, it's you in therapy, sometimes it's like, well, give it a name or give it a color, whatever you're feeling, which
Yep.
is great. But this, just the visual of, the burden being lifted. I'm going to be working with that one myself for me. I'm going to be thinking about that.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
go for it. Go for it.
Robertson Art Therapy LLC
LO.com. Yep.
com.
That's
Yeah, this is what you do. You just like I appreciate what you said today. Because I think myself and others are going to be thinking about that, how that can lift a burden.
Absolutely. I mean, our imaginations, they're great for play, but they're also great for serious work. And
100%.
we've all got access to it. Maybe it's gotten buried a little bit, but we can always find our way to it.
Thank you for today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. I love the chance to talk about what I do and what is so amazing and awesome about it when I'm working with clients. It's such a really humbling experience to see someone really move and create a shift in their own lives. It's awesome.
Totally. And even the last thing we were talking about here about the crane, that wasn't even just about art. That was about therapy. But, you get a visual of art too. There's a yellow crane getting the job done.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right. Barbara,
Yeah.
we'll catch up next time, okay?
Okay. I still have some tricks with color to show you next week.
We're going
So
to do
we'll
that next
get to
time.
that. We'll get
All
to
right.
that.
All
Okay.
right.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.